Galen, how you feeling?
Well, I'm not dead, so good.
You got the coughs, you got the sniffles. What's going on over there?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Also, it is a law of nature that anytime you start to record something, somebody will be outside doing something loud. And right now there's a power tool going on outside or whatever. I'll try and mute it, but you know.
Yeah, sometimes, things happen in the world and you just can't control it. You just kind of need to go with the flow of things.
Or I could lie and say that it's the sound of, I don't know, your nose because you're sick with coronavirus, as we know from last week's episode.
I mean, that, white lady who refused to wear a mask did come up and cough directly in my face thinking she was making a point.
Okay, genuine question. Did you run into any of those people? Because they exist.
Oh my god, yes they do. Like, I went to the grocery store in the place that I visited, and there was this guy who was standing right behind me, not 6 feet away, right behind me, talking about, oh, well, this whole, Oni Dino thing is just a load of bull, and, it's just gonna go and get more people sick, and it's just gonna be a critical mass, and then the next big thing will come around. So what's the point of it all? And I was just laughing because he was saying this to his wife/girlfriend/lady friend standing right next to him wearing a mask. So
okay, so he gave you coronavirus for sure.
I mean, maybe.
Definitely. Probably. He also coughed into your mouth. And as we all know, the coronavirus can be transmitted through the internet and 5G, so you stay on your side.
What's the male version of a Karen? That's kind of what this guy was.
That's definitely up for debate. There's Kevin, Kyle, Chad. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
I think my wife made the suggestion of John, just a John or Johnny.
Oh no! You have the coronavirus and it can be transmitted through the internet.
Yeah, through the 5Gs.
I'm friends with the coronavirus on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Wait, was that supposed to be a play on like the Birds or Leprechaun or whatever that other one where the guy goes, "Oh my god!
Troll 2, you bitch!"
We need to work on your references. They are way all over the place.
No, they aren't.
Yes,
no, they aren't.
Yes, they are.
This is a you problem.
No, this is a YouTube problem, which you don't know, too. See, I acknowledge my jokes don't make any sense.
No. I hate you.
Let's start the show.
Oh my god. What? How do I start the show? Hello. Oh, I have something prepared for this. Hello, my redrawn Pokemon for the Western market. Friends, thank you for joining us today on the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 88. My name is Oni Dino, and with me I have a Tanuki Pokemon redesigned for the Western market. You know which part of that Tanuki got redesigned. It's Galen.
I am now just a tiger with big boobs.
No, balls.
Oh.
Tanukis have huge, gigantic balls.
Well, that's not the area that I was looking at, so.
You are so uncultured. Oh god, I can't stand you today, Galen. I'll tell you what. This week I can't. I'm very tired.
Am I being too much right now?
Yeah. I'm low on energy and on talent. And just Ring Fit is a little bit more than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Is it taking a little bit more out of you than you expected?
Yes. So what's coming up in this episode? Obviously that I'm gonna be talking about the video games that we play. We also got tidbits news, rumors, controversies. And the big thing worth talking about this episode, the Nintendo Treehouse Livestream this past week.
With the special showcasing of Paper Mario, the Origami King, and nothing else.
So we're going to talk about what's happening there with the Bakugan and some speculation on my part. Maybe some business side of what's going on there.
That could be fun.
And we're going to talk about kind of the unique climate of Nintendo's announcements this year, or lack thereof, and then the expectation versus reality aspect of that live stream. It's gonna be a talk. Yeah. So just before we get into things, friends, we're a weekly show. Episodes go live every Sunday. We're on all the podcast platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and so many more. So Flyday Chinatown, please take a brief moment to leave us a review on iTunes, because Galen, what is it?
It is the best way that you too can also catch the online coronavirus.
That's true. And by online coronavirus, you mean our love. And also, Galen, that was really bad, because what we're trying to say here is that this is the best way to support our show and help us grow so we can do more giveaways. We can just have a nicer audience. We're going to get everybody together. Just have a nice time. So please do leave us that iTunes rating. Share us with a friend.
When you listen to us, make sure that you stay 6 feet apart from other people who are listening, or at the very least, listen to us with a mask.
Stay 6 feet apart from Galen for sure.
Okay, for the record, I have not caught the corona.
You don't know yet! It's only been days! There's an incubation period!
Yeah, it's true, but I'm, being respectful.
You can
I'm doing
also
this
be
self-quarantining
asymptomatic.
thing.
Ugh! This is our adventure log, what we've been playing this week. Galen, where do you tweet about games?
I tweet about all of my games on the Twitter at Mobius087.
And I do the twatting on my Twitter at Oni_Dino.
I see the escalation of the misuse of the word Twitter just going awry very quickly.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Twitter, twatter, there we go. There's
Nope,
Mario Yahoo.
I didn't hear any of it. Galen, let me tell you about this brand new game that just released last week called Ring Fit Adventure.
Released last week because that's when you got it?
So, for those who don't know what Ring Fit Adventure is, the CDC is closely monitoring an outbreak of fitness-related gaming caused by a novel, new Ring Fit Adventure first identified in Kyoto, Japan. Cases of Ring Fit Adventure are also being reported in a growing number of countries internationally, including the United States. There are ongoing investigations to learn more.
That intro got way too real, way too quickly.
It was just a CDC statement about coronavirus that I replaced with a couple of nouns.
Control F, Corona with Ring Fit.
This game kicks my ass, man.
Yeah?
Yes. It is so much fun, and it is really, really intense.
Yeah? Awesome.
This is the mysterious, elusive Ring Fit Adventure that went just... The production level went down because of the Oni Dino, and then the demand went way up because of the Oni Dino.
Mm-hmm.
So this Oni Dino got his hands on a copy, an MSRP $80 copy, or whatever it was. Yeah, it was $80, I think.
Nice.
On Amazon, thanks to Uncle Derek from Stop Skeletons from Fighting. Oh, I got notes. I wrote notes on paper because I was writing it down while I was doing the exercise. So I had notes on paper like a boomer. Okay, boomer.
Well, I know that the alternative to that is to do a live TikTok stream of your initial impressions. So
God.
I think you went with the safer of the two choices.
boy, do I not know what TikTok is. Boy, do I not know. I thought that was going to fail too. Because I remember being at E3 this time last year, and we were waiting in line to get into the main opening on like the first day it was, the first public day. And and then like the TikTok people were all, by us promoting it or whatever when we were in line being like, hey, use this app. And I'm like, oh my God, am I at a GameStop launch and they keep telling me to buy used products and the headphones and insurance or whatever? I was like, get out of my face, please. Thank you very much. I know, don't hate the player, don't hate the game. Wait, no. Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's what it is.
Yeah. I knew it was going to stick around because what was the thing that was before TikTok where it was like just the
who cares?
Like the 10-second videos that were on there?
Vines,
yeah. Vines definitely left a gap there, and TikTok had that, those China dollars behind them.
That's true. That's good. It's so fly to Chinatown.
So, Ring Fit Adventure.
Ring Fit Adventure.
It's a game. Tell the people who don't know Ring Fit Adventure what it is.
It's okay. It comes with I'm sorry, I'm very low on energy this week because of Ring Fit Adventure. You buy it. It comes in a box larger than a pizza box. I did measurements. I put it on my Twitter this week just to be sure.
I saw that.
This big ring thing is really, really well made. Very sturdy because you're supposed to smash that thing, squeeze it in, and pull it apart like you're really trying to break it. And it doesn't feel like it's going to break or anything. It's really solid construction, which is great for the higher price tag. So it feels great. And the movements, you have to slide the Joy-Con into a little leg strap that you put on your thigh, and then the other one goes into the actual ring. And the movements and everything are picked up like perfectly fine. I was really, really impressed with that.
There wasn't any like motion gaming wonkiness that you sometimes get with these?
So far, no. I've played it 2 days now, and so far, no. I'm really, really impressed with it. Every once in a while, the ring, when you're like running in the jogging stages, will come a little bit out of sync, but all you do is like put the ring down and then it goes right back to normal. So it's not an issue, and it doesn't happen all the time, so it's good. The whole point, is making sure you're doing the movements, making sure you're doing the exercises, and there is so much positive reinforcement when it comes to this game for doing your exercises. So you stretch to warm up, and they do like dynamic stretching, which is different than like static stretching, which is for your cool down. And so you're doing like a little bit bigger movements and like wider and weirder movements, and they give you experience points for that. And your experience are called your gains, which is kind of cute. A little obnoxious, but also a little bit cute. You just kind of gotta go with it.
Okay.
They have really, really good instructions, really good movement videos that you're supposed to follow. So there's like an avatar who doesn't have a face, but he doesn't look like a nightmare. His name is Tip, or their name is Tip. And they were obviously mo-capped, because even down to the smallest movements that they make, like when they're breathing and just kind of natural body movement, their character model is moving. And it's great because you want a real human moving. That way you can mimic it, or you can be like, okay, my arm is not in the proper way, or like gotta arch my back a little bit. And they give you those little tips while you're doing the movements as well, just so you don't forget, even if you've heard something, several times before.
Nice.
So you warm up, and then you go into, this is just the adventure mode, by the way. There's several different modes, but in the adventure mode, you kind of go from stage to stage, sort of like a Super Mario Bros. 3 kind of thing.
Okay.
And so far, from just the first 4 stages that I've played, it seems to be like adventure stage, a battle stage, and an adventure mixed battle stage. So an adventure stage will be focused on cardio, where you're running through the area, you're pointing your ring at different stuff, which is engaging your core, and you're squeezing the ring, which is working on your deltoids and your arms, and you're pulling it, which works on your biceps and your back, or it might be the other way around. Whatever. It's the opposite versus the other
it
side.
Works on your muscles.
Yeah. It does the body. So
it does the body good. Get them gains.
Shut up. So that's all focused on cardio. I got this and I started playing it like in the afternoon, late afternoon. It's like maybe 5 or 6 p.m. because I was excited to try it. Mm-hmm. And so I did this. The first stage is one of those cardio stages. And as I was doing, I was like, ooh, like halfway through the stage. It's just like a 3-minute stage. And I was like, I'm so out of shape. I was just really roughing it. And just, you do like knee lifts, which, you know, you're really lifting your knee and doing a whole bunch of movements. And I was like, oh my God, my butt is shaking. Like, I feel like I got extra weight on my butt. Like, what's happening? I'm so out of shape. And by the end of it, I was like, my side hurts. Okay, I gotta stop playing this game. That's enough. This shitty game.
Did you feel the burn? That's the big question.
Absolutely. That was my major downfall, though, because my biggest recommendation to people is when you're starting to do this game, do the first 2 stages in a row. Then the third stage, which is a boss battle, do that on its own and separately. So second day comes around and I do it in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I do stage number 2, which is also an adventure stage mixed with battles. And then the battles come in. And you're jogging and everything like that. The battles come in and they're turn-based battles. They take a very long time because they are focused on strength training. That's when you're doing the overhead press, the squats, the chair poses from yoga, the leg lifts, which is working on your core. And each time you do those movements, you are engaging that muscle group. And you do lots of reps. So, for example, Cliff was doing it with me, my husband.
Okay.
And I watched him do this stage before me. He was doing, like, I think squats or something, and he did like 6 of them, and like the HUD is a little bit confusing just because you're in a battle, right? And you kind of anticipate it to play like a typical like RPG kind of thing. And the enemy's just really standing there, and you just keep hitting them over and over. And so we were both a little bit like, when does this switch to a new thing? When does the enemy attack? That kind of stuff. And Cliff was like, wait, how many more do I have to do? And I, just before he said that, realized the bar at the very bottom, and it's actually your counter for how many reps you have. And I was like, 13 more. He goes, what? Because he was already feeling it. And so he was doing it. And after you get about 60% of the way through your reps, it's like, okay, now pick up the pace. And you're doing the same thing over again, but you're doing it much faster. So that way it's working your muscles a little bit more differently and a little bit more dynamically.
Yeah.
It's honestly really, really, really well structured. And I'm just impressed. And I can tell, like, from the very little that I know about, like, working your muscles and from working out and stuff like that I've done before, I can tell that it's really dynamically working your muscles, which is perfect for burning calories and for toning your muscles.
Awesome.
Yeah, like honestly, Galen, you have got to get your hands on this. This is really a lot of fun.
I was actually about to ask, like, on a scale of like playing the game just casually, do you think this is something that you will want to continue on doing?
Yeah, because honestly, after I was like, my body was done, like body hurty, I wanted to play more of the game because I was having fun with the game, but I was like, no, I will vomit. I can feel myself getting there. And also in addition to that, they have so many different like accessibility options. So for example, if you've got a bad knee, they have in the options menu, like turn on assist mode for any one of these options. So you can have assist mode off on all of them except for the ones that use your knee. And then that way it's easier on you. And I forgot to mention, but like before you even start, right when you start up, you put in your age and your weight, and you put in like what your exercise amount is that you do regularly,
0.
Right. And how much of a workout you want to have. It also tests your strength with like, okay, push in the thing as much as you can, the ring as much as you can, and then pull it as much as you can. Will register just how much strength you're able to use. So that way we can
kind of calibrate it.
Yeah. They cater it specifically to you, and they really do it on like several different layers. I'm really impressed with it. But like if you've got a bad knee and you're like, oh, I want to do Ring Fit, but I can't because I got a bad knee and I know it would, screw me up before I can really get any work out of it. You can do this. You just have to put on assist mode for whatever it is and tweak your settings. And there's even like a silent mode, because when you jog, you're jogging in place and you're probably vibrating the floor and making noise in case maybe it's at night that you're playing. The silent mode, I haven't tried it, but I assume that it turns that kind of thing off, so you're getting less of a workout, but you're still able to do a workout late at night when your family's sleeping or something like that.
Yeah, because there's other types of cardio you can do in order to like get that heart rate going and everything. So. And
then outside of the adventure mode, there's pointed training that you can do if you want to do strength training or if you only want to do cardio or whatever. You don't have to just play the adventure mode. There's like quick play, custom, multitask. There's also the rhythm game things that they added before. I think we talked about this on the podcast when they added it. Like, it's songs from like Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, and Zelda even. And then you do your workouts set to those music. And I'm super excited to try all that out. But it's going to take me some damn time because this game kicks my ass.
Absolutely. So the inevitable question is that this is not Nintendo's first foray into trying to...
Not a word.
Trying to get into like the fitness game. We've seen it with Wii Fit, Wii Fit Plus, if you want to consider that a different thing. One, do you feel like this is in that same vein, a step below or a step above Wii Fit?
So for me, it's totally, hands down, a step above, because I played Wii Fit a little bit, but there was never that like consistent workout feeling. There was a lot of pausing and downtime between exercises and going through menus and stuff like that. I just never stuck with Wii Fit at all.
Okay. Yeah.
This is so much more fun. You feel like you're playing a video game, really.
Nice.
And you even when you're running around and jogging, like there's lots of little things to look at in the world, and it's so I didn't even talk about the visuals or the sound, but it's so bright and cartoony. It's got kind of like a Jack and Daxter vibe to the character models and stuff.
I get that.
And it's got so many colors and stuff happening, so it's very pleasant to look at. So you can't help but smile and just kind of think like, oh my god, I'm doing these dumb movements, but I'm having a really fun time. And like I was just like giddy like a little kid, playing a video game. And so was Cliff when he first started doing it. And it's a really good feeling. And I think that if you can have fun and gamify your workouts, for certain people, that is so incredibly important. That's that light switch that they need in order to do a workout.
Nice.
And both Cliff and I think, have that in our personality, because Cliff really doesn't like working out. It's just so mentally disengaging for him that it's so unfun for him.
Yeah.
And gamifying this, it has really just been perfect for him. And I think that also this would be good for people who have like maybe ADD, ADHD, or something like that, because it's constantly keeping you stimulated, as opposed to sitting on a bike and, pedaling, or a workout bike. I think I lost a few consonants in there. Or lifting weights or something like that. It's a good way to get a little bit of exercise in, because, you're not going to be super crazy workout muscle gainy in this. These are not words. Boy, what is with my language? But this is a good way to tone up, lose some pounds, especially if you're just like looking to do cardio and lose pounds. I think you would really get a lot out of this. Thankfully for Cliff and I, we don't really need to lose much weight. We're both pretty thin, but toning up and everything is what our goals are. So hopefully that's what happens here.
I know when I went to Japan, just with all the walking and the cardio that I was doing around there, I lost like 10 pounds when I got back to the States. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that alone. Japan.
Yeah. It's a place. Hopefully we'll be able to go there again.
Oh, God. Who knows? We're banned right now. The last thing I wanted to say, though, is that, so remember I said, do those the first two stages together, and then do that third stage alone?
Yeah.
So I made the mistake of doing stage 2 and stage 3 together. Stage 3 is a boss battle, and it is just a boss battle. So that's just strength training. And you're doing all these movements. Yes, doing all these movements. And I just felt like I was going to vomit the whole time. And I was like, no, I can't do it. No. And I finally did it. I did it. And I was like, no, I have to warn people on my podcast. I have to tell the world. So do stage 3 on its own. It's rough. As soon as I was done, I was walking up some stairs. And I was like, no, I won't walk up the stairs.
Cliff, carry me.
It was a bad. No. I didn't have I just laid there and I died. Let the elements take me at the foot of these stairs. My body hurts now, and that's why, I slept like shit last night, but what else is new? But that's why I'm low on energy until this apparently 700 milliliters of iced coffee kicked in today. But that's not all in the world of gaming. There is also another person on this podcast. His name, Oni Dino. I have also been playing Xenoblade, and that's going just fine. Galen, what else have you been playing?
But I did manage to get in some family gaming on some of the Jackbox games. Have you heard about these before?
Absolutely. A tiny story. I bought Jackbox like 4 and a couple other ones on Switch because it's great because all you need is Wi-Fi, right? And you just take that thing anywhere. I've taken it with me to several different places, just set it up and played with friends just all over the place while we're drinking, because Jackbox is great while you're drinking.
Oh, absolutely. There's no other way to play that.
And my one friend, she's not a gamer by any means, but she got super into the Wii, playing Wii bowling and those kinds of games. And so she loved doing it. This is the first time that she ever was like, ooh, I need to own a game console. And she didn't know what what it was called. She was like, it's called the fun game. We're just calling it the fun game. Can you bring the fun game over? That kind of stuff. She eventually figured out that she can get it like on her smart TV as well, or something like that. So
no, there's a bunch of different ways you can get it. I have of the various Jackbox games, I have some of them on the PS4, some of them on the Switch, and some of them on my laptop. So it's all a matter of like remembering which one I have on what console, or For those of you playing the home game who might not know what this is, the Jackbox games are made by the same guys who did the trivia games You Don't Know Jack. And they are a collection of little party games that you would play on the TV, but the big catch is that anybody can play it who has a smart device. They give you a website to log into, and boom, that is your controller. A lot of the games are trivia-esque based. Some of them are write in your own jokes, and some of them are using the touchscreen to draw different designs. Like there's a t-shirt one that's a lot of fun, which, by the way, anything that involves drawing something on a screen, it just turns into penises. That's all it becomes.
That is so lewd.
Yeah, you had the DS, you had PictoChat, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
PictoChat, more like DictoChat.
Oh.
No one's ever made that joke before.
Never will again.
Never willy again.
Never willy again. So this particular one that I played the latest one, so Jackbox 6, has a couple of different games. It has the returning Murder Trivia House, which is one of my favorite. The trivia questions are hard.
Yeah.
They're like super hard and super out there. But that one's really fun because as you get to play it, if you get an answer wrong, you get to play a mini game where you have a chance of quote unquote dying, but even if you die, you're like not out of the running. It's just you can't collect a higher score or something. Mm-hmm. That one's a lot of fun and very straightforward. They also have this weird one where everybody is on a spaceship, but there's 1 to 2 people on there that are aliens pretending to be regular humans. And it's a bunch of trivia games to try to decide who the aliens are.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The aliens will sometimes get like questions that are in the same vein, but not worded the same way. So the answers that they give are just slightly off, and that's how you kind of tell who the alien is. Okay. And the aliens have to like defend their reasoning for their answers or whatnot.
Do you have
They
an
also
example
have
of what the aliens say?
well, it's like one of the questions was like, what is the thing that you would yell jumping out of an airplane? And that's the question that all the humans got.
Airmail!
Yeah. And then the aliens question would be, what do you want your new catchphrase to be? So it like you can come up with an answer, but it might not make a whole lot of sense.
Airmail!
So that one's a lot of fun, but I found that they kept adding like new layers. Like after a round or two, they give the aliens a way to like hack other people's answers. So now you have to think, okay, did this person give a weird answer because they're an alien or because they were hacked to believe they were an alien?
It's always a great game to play to break the ice with new friends as well.
Oh, and if we're talking about games that old friends can play, one of my favorite ones was a social experiment game. Everybody who logs on, they assign a name to themselves, and as you pick a topic, they will label different things that are related to that topic. Soda flavors, guys that you see on Tinder, like just really weird topics, but you have to move each of your friends to what best describes that. So like if you and I were playing and the option was soda, there's root beer, cherry cola, ginger beer. Like you have to, okay, which of our group is the root beer? Which of it is the ginger beer? And they get points of like whoever gets the most votes as to who falls into that category.
Oh, okay. That's cute.
Yeah, it turned out being a lot of fun, especially when I was playing with my family. So
that's nice.
My brother got a new place, and I went over to visit him and his roommates. And the game doesn't translate the same way because it's like, I don't know if I'm offending this person by selecting this as an option, but I don't really have a whole lot of other choices.
But like in these Jackbox party packs, they have like a collection of like 4 or 5 games in each one of them. And so among them, there's the ones that you can certainly play, or at least are better suited for people you know, and then people that are pretty much brand new. So that's always nice.
Exactly, and I've always appreciated that. Other versions of the Jackbox games, they don't have the same game styles in them, but they're the same general thing. In this latest version that I played, they have you're a comedian on a tour liner, and you have to come up with a bunch of topics. The topics are shuffled out to everybody. They have to choose a topic as the first part of a punchline, and then you have to write the actual punchline itself. In a previous iteration of the Jackbox game, there's one where everybody draws a picture, and then they have to come up with slogans completely randomized, and then the third person has to like combine the two to make the most humorous or best shirt or whatever to it. So each of the Jackbox games they're kind of like this is your trivia game, this is your matcha, whatever, so on and so forth. But they're a lot of fun, and they're always a good time, especially when drinks are involved.
And from time to time, they go on sale as well, too. So if anybody's kind of thinking about it, it's always good to have, I think, one on, especially on your Switch. I think it's always good to have one of those party packs. You can't really go wrong. I seem to play 4 a lot.
Yeah.
4's got a good collection.
I think 4 is the one that I have on my PS4. So, but a good tip is actually just to go onto the Jackbox website, because when you click on a particular party pack, it'll list all of the different ways you can get the game and which of them are on sale.
Cool.
Like when I went on, I saw 6. Okay, 6 is on sale for Steam, the Switch, and nothing for PS4 and Xbox. So those are the 2 consoles that I'll probably pick it up for.
And Switch is brilliant. You just need the Wi-Fi, need the Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
Cliff, one night, he was drinking with friends or something like that, and he turned on the PS4 to play like a party game, and he happened to see that like Jackbox was on sale in a bundle.
Oh yeah?
And he was drinking, so he was drunk. He's like, I love Jackbox. I'm gonna buy these. I'm gonna buy that bundle. It was like a $50 bundle or something like that of all the Jackbox games that we already owned on Nintendo Switch. was like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm sorry. It's fine. I love him.
That does kind of sound like something Cliff would do, just say.
And it is very fun to hear somebody with a thick Chicago accent say Jackbox.
Jackbox.
Da Bears, da Jackbox. Ditka.
Mhm.
Polish sausage.
Get the nacho dip.
On to the news this week. We got lots of little bits to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
This first bit, though, not so little. Not a bit.
Furriest.
Apparently. That's the Chicago accent. Apparently. Sorry. Apparently, Game Freak, back when they were going to bring the first generation of Pokemon to the Western world, they consulted, of course, with Nintendo of America, talking about localizing it and talking about the difference between the Eastern and the Western markets. And there's a whole thing on it. I think that this tidbit came about because of a video from Did You Know Gaming, but the source that this video pulled it from is apparently from a book or something. I couldn't figure out what book it was. I would really love to pick up that book and read it, because somebody posted like a screenshot of one of the pages of the book, and so I was reading that in Japanese, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, just to make sure that like the translation was done well, and it was done well, so this is all good. But I'd love to read the original book.
Yeah, well, and I do know that for this particular episode, because I went back and I watched the video. They actually reached out to a couple of like the translators for the original Pokemon and the localization team, just to try to get more of their own personal opinion on this. But
well, wait a second. They reached out to some of the translators of the original game?
Yeah, that's what they said at the beginning of the video, that they were trying to reach out to some of the translation team, even though there's like only one or two of them. They
wouldn't be able to talk about it because of NDA and stuff like that.
That's just what they said at the beginning of the video. Okay. That's all I have to say.
I don't watch the Did You Know Gaming videos anymore, to be honest. They're such like turn it on in the background fodder, and I never learn anything from it. And I'm just like, this is starting to not feel fun anymore, and it's starting to feel kind of like YouTube algorithm.
Did you know that Mew used to be underneath a truck?
Yeah, stuff like that. So anyway, the story here is that among all of the discussions for localizing it, there were discussions about redrawing some of the characters because they were too cute, and localization experts were concerned that the cute wasn't going to translate well to the Western market, because especially at that time in the, what was it, late 90s that first Pokemon came out, there was a big push for like cool. This was after the Attitude Era of mascots being super cool and wearing baggy pants and chains and stuff like that. That was the early 90s. So this was an evolution and a move on from that. So I think people were trying to figure out what works. And if you look back at like Digimon and stuff like that, like kind of the cooler, sharper angles and things like that were really popular.
Were you more of a Pokemon kid or a Digimon kid?
I liked them both. Yeah. I remember in 6th grade, Galen, it was you and me and like several other people that just happened to talk about Pokemon at the time. Talking about like which is better. I was like, I like both. Both are cool. They're both different.
Personally, I could never get into Digimon all too much.
Oh, I really liked the show. Liked the show. Never got much into the video games, but
yeah. Well, I think that was the thing, because I didn't actually watch the show all too much. But
oh my god, I have not even introduced what we're even talking about. One of the Pokemon redesigns here was apparently, instead of Pikachu, it was something like a tiger with huge breasts. Tiggle bitties. The quote here is, the staff in America submitted their ideas for replacement designs, but we just couldn't believe the kind of stuff they were proposing. They turned Pikachu into something like a tiger with huge breasts. It looked like a character from the musical Cats. Which, that is so topical in the year of our Lord 2020, because that movie Cats came out at the end of last year.
Oh yeah. Then they go on to say, like, you know, what if this design is Pikachu? And the guys returned back with the response of, well, hey, look, the tail.
So Pikaboobs almost became a real thing.
Mm-hmm. I find that quite shocking.
Mm-hmm. This is a disaster. You're fired.
Honestly, I designed Pikachu. I think it was a great design. I don't know why they changed it.
They said to me, you've got to be the most innocent Pokemon designer ever. We both are really bad at this impression. We can't keep doing it. But it's like Sling Blade, you know, you gotta try and do the voice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
It's like a Christopher Walken impression. Everybody's is terrible, but everybody's got to at least make an attempt.
Right.
Yeah.
So next up in the news is...
That's not bad.
Limited Run Game Showcase. I'll stop while I'm ahead. There was a bunch of physical games announced by Limited Run Games.
Mm-hmm.
Previously digital-only games, so check out our website. We got the entire list of what happened there. But one little thing that I definitely wanted to point out is the original Shantae game for the Game Boy Color is not only getting a digital re-release on Switch, but the game is also getting a Game Boy Color cartridge reprint.
Yeah, that's huge.
New Game Boy Color cartridges are being printed in 2020. That's fun.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And in the actual showcase itself, they called out that, hey, you don't have to spend $400 for a copy of this anymore. Here's one that we're making.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's the thing is that I think that the original Shantae was published by Capcom. It was very late in the Game Boy Color's very long life cycle. And so few copies were produced, so few were distributed, that it's very, very expensive. However, the ironic thing here is that for people who want to get the physical version, usually they're collectors or something, right? So instead of making this easier for collectors, this is actually just making it harder for them, because
it's true.
Hardcore collectors, you know, they'll collect anything. They'll collect freaking anything. And especially if there's a different version of it, then, you know, they're like, oh, now I have to own this one and the Capcom one. Like, you're just killing them. He's already dead.
Did you watch this actual showcase?
No, I didn't. What was it about? What?
It was fun. Like, they did a whole mock-up of, oh, hey, were we supposed to do something today? I don't know. And then alternate timeline versions where Corona didn't happen and E3 still came through, and they were brought over to it was all done in like green screen, and they totally made fun of the entire thing. Not in like a Devolver Digital kind of way, but the showcase was fun.
Cool.
They did showcase a couple of games that I wasn't aware of. I think I wrote down Friends of Ringo Ishikawa.
Yes.
And Kunai, which I'd never heard of those games before, but hey, that seems neat.
I downloaded Friends of Ringo Ishikawa a little bit ago, and it's on my list to play, along with many other things. But I'm very excited to play that one. That one's like a Japanese high school delinquent simulator, and I hear that the writing is pretty good and the tone is really weird. It's not just like a beat 'em up. It's actually got some stuff to it.
That's definitely the impression I got from the trailer that they showed.
Yeah.
They also had a remaster of A Boy and His Blob, which I have to be honest, that looked great. Like the animation and the detail of that they put into the sprite work in there, spot on. I'm totally in for this. It looks like something that would have come from like way forward with like the Shantae games. But they also, this one surprised me, they did a demaster of The Mummy.
Oh, yeah. I played that.
It was just like, it looks like a Contra-esque clone, well, not really. There was like wall climbing and gun shooting, and it got me interested in it.
It was very Super Metroid, honestly.
Yeah, very much so.
And kind of my issue with those kinds of games is that once I start playing, I can't stop. I mean, like, I can stop for a day and come back to it the next day, but I can't stop and come back to it next week or 2 weeks later, because I'm like, where the am I? What the
Exactly.
And that was actually my problem with it. I got like halfway through the game and I was like, what? Now I have to restart it. I don't really want to restart it.
I honestly had that problem with Hollow Knight. Like, I started playing again and it was just like, where the hell am I?
Yeah. I always wish that games like that had like a notepad feature to leave yourself notes in the game or something like that.
Yeah, that would be nice. There were a bunch of other games that they put on there. Like you said, there's a full list of them online. The only two I want to call out is, looks like they're also coming out with physical copies of Bug Fables and Grandia 1 and 2 HD.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% there for that. But overall, it was a nice little showcase.
Yeah. I always love, the littler games or the mid-tier games getting more attention, especially when, like, if you're only a Switch owner. And of course, Nintendo themselves, there's third-party announcements and there's things like that, but Nintendo themselves definitely have so little announced for this year with, a release window or a release date or something like that. So, it's sort of like a starving in the desert kind of thing. These are the games to look at. These are the quality games. Just because they're not bigger budget games doesn't mean that they're not quality. Oftentimes they're more enjoyable than the larger games. So really do check out these titles. That's why we're always, I can really only speak for myself, but I'm sure Galen feels the same. I'm always so excited to talk about like an indie game, or like if an indie dev reaches out to us and they're like, can you talk about our game, or like, can we do an interview or something like that? Always so happy to oblige that, because it's hard to get frickin' exposure in this oversaturated market.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like it has something to do with not only the oversaturation, but also the manufacturing of that quote-unquote hype that kind of goes into it. It's why, there's a difference between indie and AAA games. There's something to be said about discovering an indie game and going, oh, hey, this is really cool. I want to tell people about this because I want to share in that excitement.
That's always so fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm. As opposed to be like, hey, did you hear that there's another Call of Duty? Yeah, because everybody knows about it. Exactly.
That's a great point to point out, though, because you always feel like you're discovering like something that people haven't really talked about, or like you've maybe heard in passing, but... And I mean, that happens sometimes too with bigger budget games that you just kind of didn't play, and then you like suddenly play something like Prey that came out, in 2016, and you're like, oh, hey, that was actually like really good. Why didn't people talk about that more often, or whatever the hell? Well, but that happens so much more often with indies.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I've been really excited to be playing as many indies as I have this year. You One Step from Eden, Blood Roots. These are great games that I really enjoy talking about, and anything that I have to take the time to kind of explain a little bit more in detail to set up the premise, as opposed to being like, hey, it's like Banjo-Kazooie. But with witches.
What? Listen, you have me intrigued. Is this a game?
I was actually making a subtle reference to Hat in Time, but...
Oh. Okay.
But you see, that's kind of what I meant.
So moving on.
You want to argue with me on this, but you're not sure, you kind of see where I'm coming from.
No, I was just thinking about, I think I need to move A Hat in Time a little bit higher up in my necessity of needs to play. Yeah, in my queue. Anyway, moving on. Square Enix. Oh god, I'm so excited about this one. Square Enix files trademark for the Super Famicom RPG Live Alive in Australia.
Excuse me, I think it's Live a Live.
It is not. It is written phonetically in Japanese below the title, You Fake Gamer! So this is exciting. This is something that kind of happened with Collection of Mana before that really got announced. Like, a really long time before that finally got announced. Like, I want to say it was almost a year. It was definitely like months and months and months. A rating appeared somewhere. And I want to say maybe it was Australia or New Zealand or South Korea for Collection of Mana. And then that finally came to fruition.
Yeah.
So maybe Square Enix is going to do a Live Alive remake. I can't imagine that they would just re-release the original game just on its own. Maybe they would, but I mean, whoa,
Well, and here's the other thing, like there's also the chance of this coming through on like the Nintendo Online whatever Netflix thing is like, and they just had to do that from a legal purpose. But I think it's worth pointing out that for those of you who may not have even heard of this game before.
Yes, we gotta describe it. It's the best.
Yes. Yeah, it is a classic Super Nintendo RPG made by Square. Were they still Squaresoft at the time, or were they Square Enix?
I believe they definitely weren't Square Enix. That didn't happen until way later. But they were either
But
Square or
it was made by Square.
They went back and forth a couple of times during that era.
I honestly have not heard about this game until recently, so I did a little research of my own.
Right,
you know, seven or more playable characters, each with different scenarios that you can go through.
Yeah.
There's aspects of multiple endings. There's time travel involved. A very interesting. It's still a turn-based RPG-esque combat system, but it's done on like a 7x7 grid. So physical placement of your character and moving people around while you're doing the combat is very integral in playing the game.
The sprites are really cool in the battles as well, because the outside, like on the overworld and everything like that, the sprites, because this is a game from like 1994, so a little bit earlier in the Super Nintendo life cycle, so it has a little bit of like a very upgraded NES look to the overworld, a little bit, but then in the battle it looks like, oh cool, Super Nintendo.
I won't go into too much more detail on it. I will say that a lot of what I found from a region locked episode on YouTube. I have the link. I'll go ahead and send it to you so you can put it in the comments if you want.
Okay.
But a great recap for it. I will tell you about halfway through. It gets a little bit spoilery, but it gives you a warning before that in case you want to go in blind on this.
Gotcha. But
no, this is a really exciting game. And at first, when I just heard the title, it was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but no, this is kind of exciting to see what they can do with it.
This is a really, really special game, and sort of aping off of Galen doing a recommendation, I'm gonna recommend a old video from like, God, I want to say 2015 or something, that SNES Drunk did on YouTube. He has done everything up and down on Super Nintendo, and one of his series that he did were great Super Famicom games that never went west. And this is one of the many that he talked about in one of those episodes.
It's important to note that this game, to my knowledge, has never gotten an official English translation.
That is correct.
There's been a couple of fan dubs, but yeah, no, the fact that this is showing up in an Australian trademark is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. This game was so super ambitious and did so much cool stuff. It was really ahead of its time. Something I want to add on is Galen said 7 different characters and that there's different storylines and time travel and stuff. It's more that like each storyline has a different theme and each storyline has a different time era with different gameplay as well. So like some of the storylines don't even have battles. There's like an alchemy system in one of them. There is no dialogue in the caveman one.
There's a stealth one that's involved in the ninja episode that you go through.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then after you beat these 7 things, there's 2 more storylines after that really like wraps it all together. Sound familiar, Octopath Traveler? It's great. This game is so special.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I'm also kind of excited about this is after watching the Region Locked episode, they interviewed the director who was making it, and when they commented on, hey, would you ever want to do a remaster or remake, he said, absolutely, if the fan request is there, you know, I'll find a way to make this happen.
Okay, so that's interesting. The director of this game, whom I definitely know, is Takashi Tokita. He no longer works at Square Enix, whatever. He left a long time ago, but he is one of the most important creatives from the golden era of Square. He directed this game. He worked on so many different games, but he directed this game. He went on to direct Chrono Trigger right after this, so like back to back. And then he also directed Parasite Eve. So many more great games.
And Chocobo Racing.
Quack, quack, work, 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 work.
And then he got addicted to the Gessel Greens.
Oh, poor Chocobo. And the lead designer, I also want to really point this out. The lead designer on this game also a cool ass mofo. He became the director of Mother 3, one of the best RPGs to never come west ever, or one of the best JRPGs ever, honestly.
Yeah.
And he is a super cool ass dude. He and I follow each other on Twitter, which makes me feel so special.
Oh, big name drop there.
Yeah. The reason I'm bringing up Twitter is because he is the coolest dude on Twitter. Because, like, so I don't even know if I mentioned his name. The lead designer is Nobuyuki Inoue, and he's an older dude. He's like, I think in his 50s for sure. He doesn't work at Square anymore. He left Square and he founded Brownie Brown. And Brownie Brown is a subsidiary that's owned by Nintendo now, and they make a bunch of really cool ass games. So, like, honestly, all the best talent from Square's golden age left Square, and they, started their own companies. A lot of them happen to be owned by Nintendo, like Monolith Soft, Brownie Brown stuff. But anyway, this dude is super cool on Twitter. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because he's older dude, and so you kind of expect him to be a little bit more conservative, blah, blah, blah. But he's super leftist, and he's, like, super loud or prevalent in, like, shutting down absolute jerks on the internet. So he, like, shuts down people that are, like, anti-feminism or people who complain about the group that doesn't exist, Antifa. And he's like, oh, I'm Antifa, like, come at me. If you guys have problems, come on after me. And I'm like, oh my god, I love you, Nobuyuki. He's just the best. Oh,
that's
so
fantastic.
cool. I love him so much. Anyway.
Speaking of rumors,
were we talking about rumors? Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Live was a rumor, or whatever, unconfirmed. Tomb Raider: The Ultimate Experience image pops up. So, not confirmed. This could be a fan mock-up or something like that, but a collection called Tomb Raider: The Ultimate Experience for all the platforms, pretty much all of the platforms, including Switch, popped up. This comes from Game Rant. They apparently got their hands on a supposed promo image. The art shows off 3 generations of Lara Croft. It could indicate the original trilogy, the games from the latter half of the 2000s, which would be like Tomb Raider Legend, Anniversary, and Underwater? I can't remember the last one. Underworld? Something. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And then games right after that called Guardian of Light and Temple of Osiris. And
which I think those were top-down, like,
Diablo-esque,
like, dungeon crawlers.
Yes, I would say they're a little more akin to something like Gauntlet Legends, because it's more focused on the action as opposed to, like, loot and pickups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yes, so not the most recent ones done by Crystal Dynamics, but some of the other ones that Crystal Dynamics did. The promo art says on there specifically, relive Lara's greatest adventures in one ultimate package. So sounding like a collection, art is pointing towards a collection. I hope this exists. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Although I have to admit, it's not going to be the ultimate experience unless there are rumors, unconfirmed, of a nude code in there somewhere.
Oh, shut up.
I'm sorry. It's not the ultimate experience unless you're reliving that moment where, Tomb Raider 2, you're just like, I'm going to log on to AOL through dial-up and see if this is an actual thing.
All right. Galen is referencing a very specific time. He's referencing a time capsule in all of our lives, if we were alive during this time. And if you were, I don't know, at least in your 30s now. The original... No, okay, so what I specifically remember is Tomb Raider 2. There was a rumor in the unofficial PlayStation magazine, I think it was, to which you were subscribed, Galen.
I was subscribed to it, and I remember getting that article. I can't remember if it was an April edition, so it was like their April Fools or whatever, but...
Oh, that magazine always just, like, took the piss, though, anyway, so it wasn't...
Oh, yeah.
They had bunch of...
It was fun!
Yeah. It was fun for teenage boys, I will say, because there was a bunch of crude humor.
Yeah, so
I'm sure looking back on it, it's like, ugh, But there was a mode in Tomb Raider 2 where you could just explore Lara's mansion, and it was kind of like partly tutorial, partly just like sort of sandboxy, and that was the most fun I had with that game. there was one area, and it was your swimming pool. And the article said if you did a perfect dive off of the diving board, swam directly to the other side, and got out, then Lara would take off her pants, revealing like a swimsuit underneath or something like that. And I specifically remember the article was called Lara's Bum. I need this room in my freaking head for some other information. Why does this exist in my head? Also, this was not planned. Like, Galen just brought this up out of nowhere, and I vividly remember this information. I would like to excuse this information from my head, as well as my viewing experience of Pamela Anderson's Barbed Wire. I don't need that in my brain either. Please.
Is that the one where she was a detective, like a private eye?
No, that was VIP.
Oh my God,
information
VIP.
that I could leave from my brain. That was a television show. Barbed Wire was from the late 80s, I want to say. It was an action movie.
Saturday nights on, Fox right after Mad TV. Sorry, this has just become the Date Ourselves Back from the 90s podcast.
Anyway, I love Lara Croft, and I really need to play those new games. I own 2 of them. Cliff has played both of the new games, and he loved them. And they looked like, very much exploration games, and kind of the earlier games, like the ones that might be in this collection, they're very much like, I want to say maybe third-person shooting, kind of in the same vein as Max Payne.
Yes.
Along with a little bit of Zelda-style environmental puzzle stuff and exploration, but more emphasis on the exploration.
No, absolutely.
So this could really, especially I would say those games from the later 2000s, like Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, those could really scratch that itch for Zelda fans on the Switch.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope that this is real, because I want Lara Croft for Smash. That's what I want.
Okay.
I mean, she's technically already been on Nintendo console. She had a Wii game, and there was, I think, some handheld games. Yeah, okay. I don't know. That was during the Lara oversaturation period.
Yeah, a little bit.
But just make Smash more and more PlayStation All-Stars, please. You know what I mean? Just put Lara Croft in there. Put Crash Bandicoot in there. Screw it. Just everyone.
Okay.
No,
everyone is there.
Put a PlayStation console in there and let that just be a character. Just do it.
It's the Polygon Man from the original PlayStation. Is he the face of Master Hand? Oh my god.
Oh, shut up.
Where's my tinfoil hat?
Oh god. It's in your bum. It's in your bum. Moving on. Deadly Premonition 2, the launch discourse. So Deadly Premonition, for those uninitiated, is a very weird game, and I don't just mean in tone and blah blah blah. I mean that this is a video game that does not act like a video game. There is some fourth wall breaking stuff that they do, and I'm not just talking about like referential jokes looking at the camera or anything like that. I mean that there's long, intentionally awkward holds on items, characters' faces, very, very, very bizarre dialogue. Just the whole game is a very bizarre experience in a way that is challenging what a video game really is.
It's meant to be more of like more art piece than it is a video game.
Yeah, traditional video game and like traditional structure of a video game. It is definitely not everybody's thing. It is a niche thing made by a auteur, a creative auteur. Swery. Lovely, precious man. I love that man. So I was expecting, with the launch of Deadly Premonition 2, that it would have, just like the first game, review scores all over the board.
Yes.
All over. And it did. It had 1s, it had 10s, so that's not a problem. However, I think that maybe some reviewers were just kind of unprepared for this, and maybe we're not the best fit of a reviewer for this type of game, which I can't really blame, because not many games like this exist. Something else that I can think of that exists that challenges what it is to be a video game is like Nier, and specifically Nier Automata, but both of those have very traditional gameplay structures, compared to Deadly Premonition at least. There's a combat system, especially Nier Automata, a much more feedback positive combat system made by Platinum Games, of course. Deadly Premonition doesn't have good combat. It doesn't have good structure. It's very, very strange. You're learning these characters and these little quirky things that are happening. So there was a whole bunch of discourse about this, specifically the frame rate.
Yeah.
And the first game's frame rate was awful as well. I genuinely wonder if the frame rate is, poor because that's supposed to add to the bizarre tone. I don't know. I don't want to give a game a pass, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to think about from the basics that I know about the first Deadly Premonition. And I, of course, haven't played Deadly Premonition 2, so I can't say one way or another. But there was a lot of discourse about the frame rate, a lot of pushback on that.
Yeah.
Lots of people that I heard this from were definitely unaware of what Deadly Premonition 2 is. Some people that I've seen say that, no, the frame rate is really bad in certain areas, making it sort of unplayable. All I can really say is that someone that I really trust his opinion on and definitely is in sync with me on Deadly Premonition is Matt McMuscles. So check out his Twitter. A lot of the videos that he has been uploading, it's definitely janky, but that's part of its charm. So I would say check out his Twitter, see if that game is for you. Also check out the very old Super Best Friends Let's Play of the original Deadly Premonition to try and get a feel of what made the original so good, what made it janky.
Yeah.
And not how you're supposed to react to it, because that's not a thing. This is definitely a piece of art, so react to it however you like, interpret it how you like, but definitely gives you an idea.
Yeah. It's weird. So I'm going to preface this right now by saying that this really is not my style of game.
Right.
Primarily just I appreciate a little bit more, I guess, polish into the games that I play a little bit more. And while I do understand that removing that polish as an artistic standpoint can be made, I just don't know if it's for me.
Right. Yeah, that's totally cool.
So with that being said, I was watching and reading a bunch of reviews and stuff on this game, and I don't know why, but I couldn't help but keep thinking to myself and making a connection to this game and The Room, the movie with Tommy Wiseau. Just primarily in the way of the first one came out, and it was definitely viewed in a it's so bad it's good kind of way. And when Tommy Wiseau and Greg, whatever the other guy's name is, they decided to do a second movie and kind of capitalize on from the creators and producers of The Room as part of their tagline and their enticement to, hey, come see this new movie. It lost a lot of the what made it special, because it was trying to recreate that, that original feeling and that bizarreness that was there.
I really want to argue against that, to be honest. Of course, haven't played Deadly Premonition 2, so I can't say, but I will say that the intentions of Deadly Premonition 1 versus the intentions of Tommy Wiseau's The Room are very different. Tommy Wiseau thought he was making a good movie, and he had so much money behind it, and he was doing all of the things, writing, directing, starring, that kind of thing. He thought he was making a good movie. Swery, while I can't speak for him, does have genuinely good elements in Deadly Premonition 1. It's not so much it's so bad it's good. It's it's so enjoyable bad video game. It's not so much that. It's really challenging what a video game is. And a lot of the character writing is what stands out as so special in Deadly Premonition 1, because you learn so much about these characters. It's just that everything is so bizarre. It's oftentimes compared to Twin Peaks, the TV show, because it was aware of what it was. Tommy Wiseau's The Room was not aware of what it was.
No, and that might not be a 100% accurate way to connect the two or to compare the two.
Yeah.
But that thought did cross my mind a couple of times while I was watching gameplay, while I was looking at reviews. And, you can have a fantastic story in a paperback novel, but if the paperback novel gets wet, then, it starts to become a little, unreadable. Whereas if you are playing a game, the game can have fantastic story, fantastic character development and everything. But if frame rate issues and things like that start to get into the way where this game gets in the way of itself from getting the full experience on what you should really be focusing on, that's where you start to get an issue.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really good point to make. And I can't make that determination until I've played it myself, because I really can't trust other people's opinions on this when I know what a not video game this video game is behaving as. And that's why the only person that I think I can really trust in terms of opinion is Matt McMuscles, and he's been like, yo, this game
I thought you were going to say Jim Sterling for a second. I was ready to do my impression.
No, Matt McMuscles, and he has been like, yo, this game is jank AF. However, if you are concerned that this game does not have the charm and the writing of Deadly Premonition 1, do not be concerned. This game is full of it. So that right there already solidified my purchase, already solidified my support of this game. So when I can get my hands on this and play it, I really look forward to it and giving you guys some genuine impressions, because I feel like people who listen to our podcast, you know, they get a feel for, especially by now we're on episode 88, they get a feel for like what kind of games that you definitely like, Galen, what kind of games I definitely like. So they can really trust our opinion on, say, maybe JRPGs for me and what for you?
Nothing, because I'm a fake gamer.
Yeah, that's it. That's the joke. Yeah.
No, I really, God damn it. I really hope that you do an adventure log on this or something, because I would love to see what this game is from your eyes with somebody who can go in prepped for that kind of an experience. Honestly, I probably will not be playing it myself because it's not my style.
That's totally fine.
So,
totally good.
Yeah.
Somebody please send me this video game. My money is tight.
Toit like a tiger.
I thought about saying that.
Like a big boobed tiger.
Oh my god, we brought it around. Moving on. The big discussion this week is Nintendo just the other day had a Treehouse live stream.
Yeah.
To show off Paper Mario the Origami King. They also teased that there would be a brand new announcement and gameplay of a
Way Forward game.
Yeah, a game developed by Way Forward in an already existing IP that is third party.
Yeah. It's a shame they never actually cut back to that. You know, the Treehouse just ended directly after the Paper Mario. It was really weird.
So let's talk about what happened, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on it. So first off, let's talk about Paper Mario. Did you watch the stream, Galen?
I did actually.
Okay.
I might have been cooking in the background.
That's fine. I honestly didn't watch very much of the Paper Mario stream because I already know I will be getting this game. I'm already intrigued enough, so I didn't want to see little surprises or read the writing or anything like that. So I just kind of popped in here and there just to make sure I wasn't missing anything special, but it was mostly showing off parts of the game and the aspects of the battling,
world exploration, battling, stuff like that.
Yeah. So what was your impression from the stream, from what you saw?
So looking at the gameplay itself and what they showed, the game looks fun. I'm really excited for this game when it does come out next week. Everything that they showed kind of solidified, I know what the world exploration is going to be like a little bit more. I know how in-depth it's going to be. I liked getting that more comprehensive look at both sides of the battle system, not only just your traditional everyday battle, but also those boss battles, because that was a big thing. There is a difference between those two. And I also liked that, very obviously, they elaborated more when they were showing the boss battle was with the set of colored pencils. And they very obviously showed, okay, this is what happens when you have to get behind it, you have to close it. They showcased that a little bit. And then as soon as the boss changed its style up and they started to add a new element, they were like, well, it's a puzzle. We don't want to show you anymore for the solution. I'm like, you know what? Respect.
Good.
From a technical aspect, as far as the presentation on a whole, I think they could have done a little bit more as far as rehearsals beforehand. There I kept laughing because there were so many moments of. Wait, did you say something? No? Okay, I'm going to say something. No, you're talking? No, I'm going to talk. No, go ahead. No, you do you. No, you do you. It's just like...
Dear listeners, let me tell you something. If you want to get up, get yourself several drinks. You watch that live stream, and you take a drink. Not even a shot, just a drink. Every time someone says, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
There was definitely that awkward online delay.
Yes. And it only happened to happen with like one of the three people that were there too, which was what was so weird.
It was very strange because I feel like there were a few fun, and before I even... Okay, fine, we'll talk about this. Fine.
We're on the topic.
These things are definitely hard, especially doing live recordings with somebody who is somewhere else and you can't really see their face, you can't see their motions, their body language, which really tells you a lot about when they want to say something or when they're reacting a certain way to something. Those tells, not having them, is really difficult. It really, really is.
Yeah.
That's why we really don't do this show live, is because there's a couple of awkward things that happen, and I try to edit that to make it more listenable for our listeners. We're not a huge podcast, but we're probably a little bigger than average. And so, you know,
every time I talk, it's an awkward moment, and he has to edit that out.
Jesus Christ. So. And so, our success is not guaranteed as a podcast. So I want to make sure that our podcast is always really polished, or at least what I interpret to be really unpolished, and genuine. So, that's why we do these things not live. So doing a live show is tough as shit. I don't want to criticize them and be like, they're bad. Like that's awful. That's not constructive criticism. Absolutely. But I will say,
we've run into a couple of technical issues before in the past where we've had to resync things. So
for sure,
there was definitely a hurdle to have been had there.
Yeah.
But there definitely is a level of professionalism that kind of goes along with it when you come across those hurdles in the moment. So you can really tell that this is not something that they were accustomed to, and it was really kind of like the best solution that they could have come up with on how to present this show.
Well, in terms of professional attitude and responding to the things well, I think they did the best that they could. My criticism is that I think that they missed out on one of the fundamentals of running a live stream, and that's having as few people as you absolutely need, because one more person talking makes it so confusing. 3 people max is maybe the best. And because I didn't watch much of the Paper Mario one, I can't say exactly what they did, but what I would have done if I were, an AV producer, setting up, who's going to do what, I would have one person who is the host, the lead, the person who is controlling the flow of everything. And, dishing out questions, being like, okay, Sam, you talk now a little bit about this battle system. Oh, John, what's going on with that Koopa over there? That kind of thing. So you have one person that's doing that. You shut your mouth. You see, that was an awkward thing right there. Because we're on opposite sides, he can't tell because he's got the coronavirus over there. I keep hitting my mic. It's terrible. We're off the rails. But anyway, so that's person number 1. Person number 2 is the person playing the game predominantly and not really talking unless they're being talked to, because they want to focus on giving a good visual experience. So they need to focus on playing. And number 3 is the person providing commentary, having that back and forth with the host, and doing what they're told to talk about. So they're the informed person giving the critiques, or not critiques, but giving the explanations because they're showing off the game. So those 3 roles are really important.
They're the sounding board to be able to have the conversation kind of go.
Right. So anyway, I'm just saying that I'm not a professional AV person. There's professionals there who have worked there for years and years and years. So I'm not trying to tell people how to do their jobs. I'm just saying that I, as a complete consumer, as a complete viewer, as somebody who just runs a podcast casually, just identified one fundamental thing missing.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. It confused me as to why they were doing this as a live event, because they really didn't show anything new.
That's true. This could have been pre-recorded.
A couple of things. Yeah. 1, this could have been pre-recorded, but 2, I feel like if it is a live event, then there should be some element of like community interaction or something. Like they very obviously had a chat going on at the time, and that's one of the big advantages of having these live things.
I hide those chats immediately. I hate them.
I'm the same way, but it would have been great if, of the 3 people that were there, you had one person who was like scrolling through comments and like, oh, such and such from whatever, or Mario Lover 68 it asks, what about this? And then just be able to have that kind of live interaction.
And that's the weird thing too, is that like this was a short live stream. It was maybe a half hour, right? The Paper Mario portion.
I want to say so, yeah.
So like live streams typically are longer and a little more casual and stuff like that. So yeah, especially as you point out, for so many reasons, this didn't need to be a live stream. It could have been pre-recorded, and I think everybody would have had a much better time with it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think having it be pre-recorded would have been generally accepted as well, considering how hard it is to kind of put these things together with the state of things.
Yeah. So overall, though, it did seem to be well received by viewers. There was a lot of upvotes on it, not that many downvotes on it, and things seem to, go pretty well.
Yeah. The critiques that we're pointing out right now were just from more of a technical aspect, but they in no way got in the way of the quality or just the enjoyment of the show.
Yes. And again, since I didn't watch too much of it, I can't say how much of it really affected the presentation, but it seemed to be fine. Yeah. The second portion, however... So
there was no second portion. What are you talking about?
All right, you drop that. You drop that right now because we're going to talk about it.
Okay. Hang on, I got to get my, late 2000s soundboard going off.
Go ahead.
No. Continue.
Oh, please, no. Oh, you didn't have a follow-up for that joke?
Inform... Oh, no, the joke's coming, but please inform the people of this third-party IP.
Dear listeners, the joke is coming. Ready for joke? Prepare to laugh. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So, they set viewers up with those expectations. And
it was really weird. There was a lot of build-up here. Like, this is a third-party IP, brand new game we've been working on.
Before we really get into all of that, let's talk about, like, what happened.
Yeah.
So then they announced, they're like, okay, here's a new IP, new blah, blah, blah. Or not IP, new game in an existing IP. Mm-hmm. And it is a game called Bakugan. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the full title.
Full title is... I wrote it down.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I put down Bakugan Brawl for some reason. That's not what it is.
We don't even know.
Bakugan Champions of Vestroya.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, one of those
It's
generic
time
names.
to duel.
Is that a thing that they do from the thing?
No, that's from Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, okay. Galen.
Late 2000s.
So, WayForward is developing this new game. They showed it off. They had really a lot of awkward interactions of the, go ahead. One of the guys, there was 4 people on there, which is, in my opinion, one too many for the live stream. The one guy was reading like a script thing to, deliver all of the things he wanted to say in a very monotone voice, and it was not very exciting. They didn't feel like human beings having a conversation. And I get that this stuff is hard, so I really don't want to be too critical of the person. I just want to be critiquing, what happened. And it was not an exciting presentation, and there was just a whole bunch of small little problems with it that kind of was greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the game itself before we get too far into the presentation.
Just before we talk about the game, Galen, can you tell people what backgammon is? I don't know what this is.
Bakugan, it is where you have the little top and you spin it and you say, let it rip. No, sorry, that's Beyblades. It's where you go ahead and throw out your monsters and have them fight and digivolve into higher variant. No, sorry, that's Digimon. It's where you pretend like you have Pokemon on 3-man teams and throw them out. And no, actually, that's pretty much it. No, Bakugan is a game. There's supposedly a trading card game that goes along with it. I am not too on the know for this game because I know how try-hard it seems to me.
Oh.
But no, there are little action figures that you collect, and as you play the game, you play the cards, and that's the attacks that your little action figures do, and it's supposed to be like the representation of like what you play, what they do, how you maneuver.
Gotcha.
There is a strategy element that kind of goes along with it. I did not get that strategy element from what I was seeing in the game.
Okay, why don't you tell people then about the game, what the mechanics seem like from the presentation?
Yeah, so in the game itself, you go around in a lot of it kind of reminded me of like Pokemon Sword and Shield, with like the design of the characters, the way that the environment looks. It's all from a top-down perspective, so it doesn't have that free-range motion camera to it.
I was thinking more Yokai Watch 1, just because it's set in a town.
So I've been happy with a Yokai Watch game, but so you go up and you talk to people, and the very first thing they did was they had a Bakugan battle with this little girl who just collected one this morning, and they throw out their Bakugan, which are literally these little, not Pokeballs,
okay,
and they expand into giant kaiju monsters. And the two monsters stand awkwardly in front of each other, maybe occasionally making a motion and swiping at each other, while you run around and collect these random glowing spots. And the only signifiers as to which one is better is how much of a shine or glow is coming off of it.
Okay.
You pick up this glow, you throw it at your creature, and that is your mana or the energy source for that creature, which when it collects enough, it will then do a various type of attack. And what type of attack depends on, there's like apparently 4 move sets that you can set up per creature. And when you have these battles, you can have up to 3 creatures per side. So very Pokemon-esque. But literally the only interaction, the only control that you have, other than making the decisions of what you want to do when you have enough energy to do it, is your character running around the feet of these giant monsters trying to collect shiny things. And there's no risk of like getting stepped on or knocked by various attacks, so it's literally just you running around from point A to point B.
Yeah, I could see that aspect getting really tedious, to be honest. And in addition to that, in battles, they didn't really look too good. They definitely looked like budget battles, and I don't know, I really like the 2 big enemies that were fighting each other. Like, first off, I don't think that the designs are very strong, but that's a problem with the IP, if anything. So, you work with what you got.
Also, this is what you work with what you got, but this is also what they showed. But even then, like a little bit later into the showcase, they had a team of 3, and 2 of them were the exact same design, just different colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but for me, my biggest letdown, because, all right, so when the opening trailer played, I was like, oh, it's a battler thing and like online battles and stuff. I was like, it's not for me. I was like, well, okay, let me see some more of what's going on. Maybe I'd be interested in this. And then I saw a little bit of moving around. I was like, oh, okay, this reminds me of like Yokai Watch. Maybe I could be into this. And then I saw the battles and I was like, oh, cool. Like, look at the scale of these things and you're running around them. And I was like, that's awesome. But the things just kind of stood there having just like kind of a breathing motion. Then once in a while it would make like a generic animation of swiping at the other. And it was not exciting at all. And it didn't look very good at all. It started off a little promising, but then I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And even at the very end, when they were like, they showed that all of the energy things were filled, but he wasn't actually making attack. He finally collected his last piece and did, here's the big team attack. All 3 of my guys are going to attack at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was just generic attack animation with all 3 of them on screen, just a little bit flashier. Like, there was nothing that screamed special about that other than the mechanical aspect of this attack does more damage.
Yeah, and it fell so flat. In addition to the poor guy giving the speech and just being so monotone, like just lots of little things, like I said, just being a problem.
No, and I'm not knocking the series all too much just because I'm not familiar with it. I've gotten excited on Magic the Gathering and
other embarrassing
Yu-Gi-Oh
shit.
trailers, but I don't expect everybody to get hyped about that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, but this was very much a niche audience and not what I was expecting them to follow up one of their, I'll call Paper Mario one of their bigger IPs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's Mario, so yeah. It's a spin-off of Mario, but it's the biggest thing they got right now.
This is very much something that I was thinking that if they had an E3, if Nintendo had an E3 conference and had some sort of a deal where they wanted to announce this in that, this would have been in like a 30-second trailer or something, like midway through or even part of their sizzle reel.
Yeah, so that is a discussion that I definitely want to have here.
Mm-hmm.
This is really weird that this got announced right now, because when you think of like something being announced after a live stream, you're like, okay, somehow maybe more often than not it's going to be related to the stream, and if not, it's going to be something big enough that they are dedicating the time to be like, hey, here's this surprise, we're going to tell you about it tomorrow. And that also begs the question of, does everything need to be a damn surprise reveal? This would have had much better reception if it were obviously in a direct along with many other things, and they just showed a trailer thing. Then people could be like, oh, okay, cool, I'll look at that later, whatever. But if this were just a quick gameplay thing that were pre-recorded, 5 to 10 minutes long, just dropped on YouTube, just like how Paper Mario's announcement was dropped on YouTube, this would have been way more positively received. Instead they said, look out for a brand new game and an existing IP by a third party. And part of the fault is definitely on this horrible, awful hype culture that is not manufactured, but is encouraged by all people, all players in this game, whether it's the publishers and the PR people and the creators that want you to get hyped up about the game, want you to pre-order, blah, blah, blah. They want that cycle. That's why influencers are huge, and that's why they're paying influencers instead of paying actual reviewers or actual people who give critique. So it is this Ouroboros of a problem that it's caused by itself. And
I like that. That was a good use.
Oh, thank you. Very, very intelligent. So it's partly that, but it is partly also, Nintendo, you prepared people for a surprise reveal when people are craving a Nintendo Direct. You are aware of that. So you are putting yourself in a bad position. You're putting Way Forward in a bad position. And I honestly felt really, really bad for Way Forward in this situation.
I feel like part of the reason why the enthusiasm was so lackluster from the people who were doing the presenting is I feel like a lot of the designers, this is one of those, like, this isn't a resume builder project. This is hey, I'm kind of newer in the industry. I'm going to go ahead and do this just to get some added experience until I can try to get a contract on a higher end game. Like, there are people who work on The Last of Us and, Legend of Zelda, and then there's people who work on Imagine Pets.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, the work is there.
And Way Forward is no stranger to licensed games. Like, for example, you brought up The Mummy Demastered earlier. That was made by Way Forward. Way Forward has made tons of licensed games, and they're usually pretty quality. Like, I mean, you think about The Mummy Demastered, like, oh, the mummy from that new Tom Cruise movie? How embarrassing. Yeah. But that video game, which has, like, pretty much nothing to do with the movie.
It looks good, actually.
It's pretty good. It's a solid game. It's not amazing, but it's a solid-ass game. So Way Forward makes some good stuff. I'm sure that this will be somewhat of a quality-ass game, but this definitely seems to be like a partnership thing. Let's make some money, and then we will finance our creative projects on our own using the capital that we gain from this kind of thing. It's a business decision. I'm not upset that this game exists. This is for some other people, not for me. That's fine. I'm just talking about, like, the business side of making announcements. Does everything need to be a damn surprise announcement? And... this is all speculation, of course. I'm just throwing out these questions here. Saw a couple of people in the comment section asking stuff like this, and I was like, hell yeah to you guys thinking about this. I'm wondering if maybe, because this is a third-party IP that is exclusive to Nintendo Switch, at least for the time being, there's obviously contracts involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they were required to do some sort of, E3 presentation thing. Of course, in contracts, there's always something called force majeure, which I might be pronouncing that wrong. It's Latin, I think, whatever. It's basically saying that anybody is protected from quote unquote acts of God, things that you absolutely cannot be prepared for. So the coronavirus would be one of them. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if in their contract and in part of their negotiations, they were like, okay, we can't do this part of the E3 Direct. This can't be a big portion of the E3 Direct. So you have to do, and this is part of their negotiations, a standalone live stream or a standalone presentation or something like that. You know what I mean? Because this doesn't even seem like Nintendo to be like, this
seemed like very kind of under the radar, This is the, hey, I'm going to showcase this new game and then put free to start at the very bottom during the end title card. Like that kind of like, I'm sneaking this in there at the last minute.
Yeah. So I think that like these are all really important questions that we need to ask ourselves. I think that people who listen to this podcast are very savvy about video games and the industry, and they think about these kinds of things. So I think that it's really good to talk to our audience about this kind of stuff rather than be like, why? Nintendo's so stupid. Like that's not a great conversation to have, nor is it constructive.
Yeah, if I had to theorize, I would probably say that there was some sort of contract that said that they needed to talk about this in a live stream format, especially because if you look at the past way that Nintendo has dealt with the E3 timeframe as a whole, they've always had their Direct that comes out around that time, but then they have the additional Treehouse live events, which goes on for like the rest of the week, where they go over all of the smaller games, the more in-depth. I 100% believe that this is one of the games that was originally signed up for that lineup, and due to some kind of contractual obligation, they're like, well, we're doing a Treehouse, we'll throw this in there too because we already said we were going to. So...
Oh, and I totally forgot, but I wanted to point out a comment that one of our lovely commenters said that cracked me up. The user is named Awng, or AWNG, I'm pretty sure, and then there's some numbers after his or her name, or their name. And so, sorry, I can't remember your full username, but they said something like, this video game looked like the parent-child equivalent of a kid being like, oh, Mom, I want Yokai Watch 4. And then the mom's like, we have Yokai Watch 4 at home, talking about this game. I was like, oh my God, that is so true. So apt. Like, oh God.
I want the Pokemon. You already got a Pokemon.
Right.
Pokemon at home.
It's just like an off-brand shitty Pokemon. Like, it doesn't even move. So this also made me wonder, because... WB, I think Warner Bros, they are rumored to be publishing. So. I don't think that we have confirmation on it, but I don't know. They have the rights to the Bakugan IP in the West, at least. I'm wondering if Nintendo argued this into the negotiations to make Paper Mario look better. Did they send Bakugan out to die? Is Bakugan the ugly friend in a group of like 6 out of 10s to make them look like 7s or 8s? Because tell you what, back to back, Paper Mario looking pretty good right now.
So you're telling me...
Is Bakugan the Galen of the Nintendo Everything podcast?
Says the drunk 6.
Regular 6, drunk 7.
Oh. Yeah. Alcohol always adds a point.
Oh, did you have anything else to say, by the way, on this?
No, I wasted all my jokes at the beginning, so...
Hey, that's fine. I saved one joke for the end.
There you go.
That's a good shit sandwich right there. So on to additional DLC. Galen, what are you going to recommend this week?
So I was telling Oni a little bit earlier that I managed to get my old trombone back on my trip back to see my family.
Yeah. Galen used to be a really big tromboner back in the day.
Yeah, just tromboned all over the place. Yeah. Oh god, so many different things I could say. Anyway, I used to play for a number of years and dropped out when I left high school. But I started kind of wanting to start play again, and it was primarily because of this particular YouTube channel. This is a guy named Christopher Bills, and he does various covers. He's a professional trombonist. Don't give me that face.
Galen.
But
you're
he does
apparently a fake musician because the correct terminology is tromboner, okay?
Gotcha. See, it wasn't like that back when I played.
Yeah, well, if you just open your mind, okay, and you just allow new facts to be accepted, maybe you'll learn something.
Maybe. Oh, let's be kidding. I won't learn anything.
Let's be kidding.
Anyway, Christopher Bills is a trombonist who does various covers, but he does cover loops. So he starts and plays like the underlying, bass notes, and then he goes back and plays the next layer up and the melody and the solo parts, and it just becomes so much more than what it originally is.
A fart symphony, some might say.
Yeah, basically. The video that I have on here is Pharrell Williams' Happy from a couple of years ago, but there's a bunch of other stuff. There's more recent stuff. I think they did Billie Eilish's Bad Guy.
That's basically fart sounds already. Fart, 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 fart.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah, see?
But it's really
So
cool
talented.
listening to this stuff. Yeah. It's really cool listening to the stuff and not Oni. So highly recommend it. Yeah, that's all I got this week. Oni, what about you?
I'm recommending new video by Game Maker's Toolkits on YouTube, aka probably the best channel on YouTube. Game Maker's Toolkit, I'm sure I've recommended them plenty of times before. They examine game design and history, and their videos are just so well edited. The scripts are so good. The points that they make are so perfect. Like, nothing ever overstays its welcome. It's great. This new video is called Are Western and Japanese RPGs So Different? And it talks a bit about the history going all the way back to like the 60s and 70s with Dungeons and Dragons, and then going into video games and how they were inspired by that. And it's just a great little history lesson, great little examination of design. And they're really good at like introducing a thread and then linking that thread all the way through their videos. So do check out just Game Maker's Toolkit in general, but I love this video because I love RPGs.
I will check this out. Anything that goes with story breakdowns in both of these, I'm excited for.
You would really like this game, or this video, Galen.
This video.
Because it deals with the D&D.
Nice.
Yeah. And now, onto our coldest segment of the podcast. I was looking at my Ice Climbers Amiibo when I said, listener mail!
I thought you were looking inside your own heart, but that works too.
No. If you have a sick burn or a cold
taint.
Taint? I have to edit that out of the podcast, and I don't think people are going to be able to put two and two together.
Keep it in.
I wish. I don't know, maybe I will. Whatever. You can write us an email to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
That email, one more time, is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
Galen, do you remember when we had so many emails that we were reading 2 emails per week?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get through them?
Absolutely.
We're back down to 1 per week. Isn't that sad?
That is sad. That makes
Aren't you
me
just
sad.
so sad?
My heart just became a little bit colder.
If you want to warm up his heart, kokoro wo atatame switch on, then send an email to Nintendo Everything Pod, because we need those emails.
Emails that will sound like mics.
Wait! Hold it!
Objection!
There we go. I
wanted
am
to do sound
introducing a
effect.
brand new portion of this listener mail. It's the... I don't even know what to call it because I didn't think about this part ahead of time. Stop it.
I'm done.
Your farts. This is...
Oh,
not
get my
only-
trombone.
No. I will end this Skype call. This listener segmail...
Segmail. It's called a segmail from now on.
Oh my god.
When you leaned back, your background like completely obscured your entire thing, so it looks like you just fell into a sea of Kirby's.
And we want to encourage people to leave iTunes reviews. So leave us an iTunes review and write out something nice to us. Give us 5 stars, please. And we'll read it out on the podcast.
Hopefully yours will sound a little bit like JM Flyers. Who
Oh,
writes,
is that how it's pronounced? I was like, Jam Flair.
It's Jam Flyer.
Okay.
Jim.
And what do they say, Galen?
Jay writes in and leaves a review. That's weird. See, you're throwing off my like normal thing.
Yeah,
but
just say this iTunes review comes from Jam Flyer. They say,
the banter from Oni and Galen is hilarious. They are childhood friends, and you can tell. Unlike other gaming podcasts, you can tell these guys have free reign on what they want to talk about, as well as giving genuine opinions and thoughts, unless it is related to Sony stuff. They're also great at answering emails on the podcast. Thank you very much for your kind words, Jay.
thank you, Jam Flyer.
Jam.
And then our email to this week.
Yep. Our emails, which we are always really great at, reading out and answering, comes from Mike. Yeah, questionable. Mike writes in, "Hey dudes, people are always talking about digital versus physical games. What do you think? I always buy my stuff physical if I can. Do you ever worry about your media disappearing when you bought it digitally? What do you guys prefer buying? Love your podcast. It's effing hilarious when you guys argue." Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Oni, how do you feel about this?
Whatever's cheaper. Whatever
When it
keeps
gets
me
right down to it.
buying more games.
Yeah. Breaking down this question, honestly, I have always been a very physical kind of guy. I like having the games on the shelf, and I like seeing this collection grow, and that's something that makes me happy on the inside. It's like hanging up a picture. I just, aesthetically, it pleases me. That said, the Switch has really kind of changed things around, and it has become more of a bit of functionality for me. I really like the idea that I can carry this console around with me, and I literally have every single thing I can play on the Switch in a handheld format, and the case that I carry the Switch in also has space for all the games that I have, which, if all of the digital games that I had physical copies of, I would not be able to do. So it's an interesting trade-off. Also, being the quote older, more mature version, end quote, of myself, I find myself that taking down a lot of that physical memorabilia that I used to covet so much beforehand. Like, a lot of my PS2 games and PS3 games I currently have in a box separated.
Box of shame, because that is all very embarrassing.
Wii and GameCube games are in there too. It's all stuff that I could, if I wanted to, pull out the consoles for, but I no longer have that need to put absolutely everything on display and have them within reach at a moment's notice. So I could see the argument of this going both ways, but right now I'm a little bit more on the digital side personally.
Yeah, for me, all my physical games are tucked away inside of a coffee table that folds up and opens up, because that shit is embarrassing, and there are so many video games that I own that I'm like, oh god, no. I got stuff hung up on the walls. I got all these stupid amiibo that I bought way too many of. Why do I have so many amiibo? And
because they make so many amiibo, and if they make it, you will buy it.
well, no, I only buy the ones I like. I happen to like a lot of them, apparently. God, I'm looking at them right now. It's embarrassing. So anyway, I don't need more on my shelves.
Yeah.
So I would honestly prefer digital. I know that this is sacrilege. I would honestly prefer digital, just because it's so much more convenient. I'm so much more likely to play it. I mean, with Ring Fit, man, that's a physical game in a physical box. I am in the holy minority when I say this for sure. I wish that instead of a game cart, it was a download code for the eShop that came in that box, because it's a workout game. You want to pick it up and play it immediately. I don't want to change out my carts if I happen to be playing a physical game at the moment. You know?
Well, one could also make the argument that if you are if you wanted to play it immediately, it's a lot faster to go ahead and just pop the game in as opposed to downloading it directly onto the console. Plus,
well, the one time, yeah.
Well, and also getting up and changing the cartridge out is more exercise, which is perfectly on brand.
Or is that prohibitive in actually doing your exercise? Checkmate.
Potato. Anyway, if I am given the choice and it's the same price of either buying it digitally or buying a physical copy, and I have both options in front of me, I will look at the type of game it is itself. If it is something that I am going to play for a prolonged amount of time, but will probably not play again later down the road, I will probably take it as a physical version. Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing. And that's primarily because if I ever need to leave it behind, I'm not gonna, my heart's not gonna be broken. I had my good experience with it. But if it is something that I would want to have on hand, like let's say I was to pick up the Switch and go over to your place, for example.
Do not, you have Corona.
I have the Corona. Oni Dino. I've got Mario Kart, I've got Smash Bros, I've got Mario Party, like those games I'm having digital. So that is the big distinguishing factor for me if I'm giving a straight choice. Now the other part of this question, and do I ever worry about the media disappearing? Not so much. I mean, there is a risk of it, but I feel like it's the same risk of, are you worried about your house catching on fire and you losing all your physical stuff?
Yeah, right.
I have yet to come across a point where a file has become corrupted in a digital format that I have had before. Like, I've still got old CDs back from when I was in high school with like RPG Maker files built into them. So, yeah, I'm not so much worried about that. And honestly, they're on my console, and unless I go and delete those files, I'm not worried about losing them. Part of the reason why PT is still floating around on the internet and accessible if you really want to get your hands on it. So
yeah, for me, if I really care about something, I'll back it up digitally, just in case, just because of whatever. And that's such an easy process and such a simple thing. I'm not concerned. Our lives are transient. Right? Physical media is also transient. Like, it'll break at some point, it'll rot at some point, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not super obsessed with like, I need to hold on to this thing forever and ever. I in my 30 some years of being alive, I haven't come across something where it's like, I can't play that anymore. I guess maybe PT is an example of that. But I mean, I don't know, that doesn't really fit into this though, just because this doesn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't physical versus digital. But
yeah.
like, I mean, even old ass games, like, thanks to the efforts of ROMs and emulators, we are preserving media, even though it's technically illegal with the ROMs. Preserving media is so important. So that's why I'm always on the side of like ROMs and emulators and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and I only brought up the PT thing because that is a good example of like what happens if you have a digital thing and now you don't have a digital thing anymore.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
PT never had a physical representation, so theoretically, you can't play that game anymore.
Yeah. And eventually, like, eShop servers will go down, like we saw that on the Wii and stuff like that. So if you don't have your stuff downloaded to your physical Wii or external hard drive or whatever it is, you can't re-download that again. And I mean, I just kind of see that as part of how it happens. If you do that, then back your stuff up again if you're concerned about that to a external hard drive.
And there's also like an entire movements that are out there on wanting to take the extra steps to make sure that those digital things are preserved just from an archival standpoint.
Yeah.
I am perfectly glad that I know I can pick up a copy of Shantae for the Game Boy Color if I want to this year.
Yeah, I'll buy that digitally. Can't wait.
There you go.
Mike,
So
thank you
thanks a
very
lot,
much.
Mike. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead. Oh. No.
Are you gonna go? Oh, you go ahead. No.
Go.
No. Yeah.
Oh, that's a sound bite that's getting repeated, Galen.
Yep. No. For those of you playing the home game, occasionally Oni will go ahead and like send me sound bites of just completely taken out of context to me as he's editing the podcast.
I usually will send you the ones that I will take out because they're so gross sounding.
You send my wife more of those, and then she goes and shows them to me.
Good. That's what I want. Galen has a strange body. He has a lot of sounds coming out of it. Very strange. So what's coming up? What's coming out? NintendoEverything.com. Those translations that I did on Bloodstained and Iga, that's coming out for sure. We have the big old review on Xenoblade Chronicles that came out last week. Do check that out. So much more stuff is coming out. So much more. Oh, by the way, there was a Devolver Digital. They did a thing. Forgot to mention this. Hold on. Live tweeting. Devolver Digital had a press conference. Go check that out. We just covered it on our website, NintendoEverything.com. Suda51 also teased No More Heroes 3 again.
We'll talk more about that next time.
I love No More Heroes. I love Suda51, also a precious man. Tell me about your precious Japanese game devs on my Twitter, @Oni_Dino. I love talking to you guys. You guys are great. Your socials, give it to them.
Well, if you would like to see my dedication to nerdom, you can do that at Twitter, @Mobius087. I have just recently put up a couple of translations that I made myself that, you know what, they were super nerdy, but I'm 100% okay with that. I had fun.
Don't translate.
I translate Elven, apparently, because that's a thing.
Oh,
I can say that now.
Galen, that sucks. How embarrassing.
But I also posted some pictures on my Instagram too. So if you want to see those, you can follow those at @true_Mobius.
Galen, is very hot outside. What are you going to do today?
Not swim, because apparently, I can't do that.
No, you will give everyone coronavirus.
I'm going to go have a Chinese feast.
Oh, that sounds great. I want Chinese food.
Yeah. The place that you actually used to work at just reopened. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's some more for you.
I've been promising my wife that as soon as it opens back up, we were just gonna spend like $100 and just get all the food and all the leftovers.
Nice. Well, good on you for supporting them.
Yeah.
I worked at a Chinese restaurant since I was like 15. All the way into my 20s. They were great to work for.
No joke, my wife is actually sending me messages and it says, "Is it time? Do we feast? The hunger grows."
Okay. Go, Galen. Go and Shirfan.
I'm assuming, bless you?
No, eat food, you dick.
Oh.
Hey, everybody, leave us an iTunes review or a rating. We'll see you next week. Until then, for everything Nintendo,
Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye-bye.
Later, everyone.
再见.
Music make you lose control. 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 Music make you lose control.
Cute face, chubby waist, thick legs in shape. Rump shaking both ways, make you do a double take. Planet rocker, showstopper, flow popper, head knocker, beat scholar, tail dropper. Do my thing, motherfucker. Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, Blue Medina, always beaming rag top, chrome pipes, blue lights out of sight. Sold in, say it again, sold in. Make that money, throw it in, booty bouncing, don't Everybody's else, come on, everybody. Princess Cinderella, she'll sing on acapella. We gon' make you lose control and let it go, but you know you gon' hit the flow. I rock to the beat till I'm higher. I walk in the club, it's fire. Get it crunk and wired. Wave your hands, scream louder. If you smoke and fired up, bring the roof down and holler. If you tipsy, stand up. DJ, turn it louder. Take somebody by the waist and now throw it in the face like hypnotic, robotic. This here will rock your bodies. Take somebody by the waist and now throw it in the face like systematic, ecstatic. This hit be automatic. Work with me.